Hello there folks, I'm Dan Brown from Sort of Interesting, and today you are joining me in the Banana Box studio for an episode of The World According to Dan, my ongoing series where I talk about all sorts of random topics from the great wide world and share some of my real life thoughts and feelings and worldview with you. So, without further ado, today I want to talk about achievement and happiness. Or rather, I want to look at those topics through the prism of my own life of pretty big underachievement, but great personal happiness. So, I suppose at this point I'll do my usual disclaimer. This video isn't meant to be attacking anybody who chooses to live their life differently to me. If you want to have a great career and go into different fields and do amazing things, then I totally support your individual rights. I'm a huge fan of personal rights to live your life how you see happy. As long as you're harming nobody, then go for it, I say. But don't harm anybody. That's the core part of that. So, I am probably in the top 3 underachievers that I know. I'd certainly say that most people I know would agree that I'm probably in the top 5. But really, that's never been important to me. I've never really had any real interest in what, and I don't wish to sound too sort of hippie-ish in this statement. I don't even like using the term hippie-ish, to be honest, but I've never had any real interest in what society deems success. Why did I do that voice so early in the video so people see it as well? So basically, I think that the earliest point in my life that you can start to see me deviate from the path of what people would consider success and achievement and what have you is back when I was in school. And because I'm so old, we used to do the GCSE exams as the last exams that you did before you left school. But there are a few topics that you would take an exam a year early. So you'd have the exam, the final year of school, and then all of the rest of the exams, and then leave school. And science was one of those early exams, which is a topic I was always pretty good at. So did this exam early, the results come back, and I got an A star in it, which back then was one of the highest grades, it was the highest grade you could get. So instead of that then spurring me on to be like, oh, I've got the highest you can get already, it's like, oh, just think how hard I can work and get A's and A stars across the board in my other topics. And instead of that being my mindset, I looked at that A star and I thought, well, I've got the highest you can get now, what more have I got to prove? And I just sort of totally lost interest in education, and I dropped down to just being a standard sort of B and C grade student with a few A's mixed in for the rest of my education. And I want to say at this point as well, another disclaimer, I'm not in any way, shape or form encouraging any of you young uns watching this to not take education seriously, because it's something that I look at it like this in hindsight. Because I had to be at school anyway, I might as well have got the best grades I possibly could, because it wasn't like I had any choice but to be there, so I might as well have got something proper out of it. And I would have had those results for the rest of my life then, whereas instead I just have general B's and C's and, like I say, a few A's mingled in with that. So I don't want to sound like I'm discouraging education whatsoever. Equally, imagine how infuriating it must have been for my family and the people around me to see me be clearly capable of better results, but not really have the interest in it. And again, I don't look at this and say, oh yeah, I'm proud of that or anything. I use this simply as an indication that from an early age, I wasn't really interested in oh, what's success? This is what everybody says success is, so I've got to do that. And it was foolish in that case, I personally think. Had to be at school anyway, might as well have got A's across the board. But, well, it's 14 years too late to be thinking about that now. So I then went on to college, which is the British sense of college, as in sort of ages 16 to 18, rather than the American and overseas version of college that we would refer to as university. And there I studied, as one of my main topics, history. Now, anybody who knows me knows that I am absolutely obsessed with history. I just love it. It's fascinating. It's filled with incredible stories of every possible kind. Amazing stuff. Now, just to prove that I was already like a pretty odd person in my mid-teen years. Back then, I was obsessed with European medieval history, and instead of learning the stuff that I should have been learning for college, I spent so much of my free time reading books, looking on the internet, and again, the internet was really basic back then, buying audiobooks and stuff like that, which was expensive to buy audiobooks and actual physical books, because, as I say, the internet was nothing like it is now. You couldn't download loads of stuff, you didn't have endless hours of free podcasts to listen to or anything like that. And so I was spending all the money I was making from running a little eBay shop back when I was in college. Again, weird stuff from my past we'll talk about at some point. On like history books and spending hours and hours reading all this medieval stuff. And if I'd have spent just a fraction of the time I spent doing my history for enjoyment, doing my history for actual college work, then I would have easily walked all the exams, being A's across the board. But instead, this is how into it that I was and how much time I spent. I created a series of tables that had as many of the battlefields of England and like what date it was, where it was, who was involved and what the outcome was. And I literally spent hours and hours creating these spreadsheets and these lists of all of this sort of historical stuff throughout like the British Isles. And again, if I'd have spent a fraction of that effort on the actual college stuff that I could have been doing to get actual grades at the end of, then I would have walked it. But instead, I was too busy doing stuff that I enjoyed. So again, that's the real sort of early stage where it's clear that I'm not particularly interested in what society says is achievement and what have you. And I suppose I really got interested in, like, I don't know, sort of Eastern philosophy and stuff like that, and like, I don't know, sort of Buddhism and Taoism, that sort of stuff. As I left college, I had about a year or so where I was selling me random Star Wars figures and bits and pieces, like vintage collectibles on eBay. Really strange time in my life. And I was sort of exposed to a lot of these ideas of like being happy in the moment and all of that sort of stuff. Rather than sort of, you've got to chase it. You can't be happy until you get to this point here. You can't be happy until you've achieved this. And I suppose that's really another influence, which it's only just occurring to me. That's not even in my notes that I've got for this video. But yeah, I suppose that's something else to do a video specifically talking about at some point. But yeah, in all honesty, all seriousness, as time goes on and what have you, I find myself working at a supermarket where I still work over 10 years later now. And there's people who look down on me for that, and I know that because of some of the comments. But it served me absolutely perfectly. I started working and was doing full-time hours for a few years. Then obviously when I bought a boat and lived on a boat for 4 years, I dropped down to part-time hours, and now I sort of do a mixture of the both, throw a bit of unpaid leave in every now and then, but then work overtime to sort of balance things out and see where I am financially and go forward working on that, really. And basically, over this last decade or so, I early on found myself friends with people who were really into the outdoors and walking, and we'd go off up mountains and drive back at the end of the day absolutely worn out and battered. And it really sort of was in that early stage and meeting these different people that I realised, hang on, this is what I love, this is what I really enjoy, the great outdoors, being out here just wandering around. And so that then spurred me on for the last, best part of a decade, if not a decade, to literally just be spending as much of my time in the great outdoors, doing the stuff that I enjoy. It may not be some sort of amazing career, I might not be doing anything meaningful in the world, but again, it comes down to what I said really at the start of the video. It's like, I'm harming nobody, and I'm doing stuff that I enjoy, and I'm keeping myself to myself. I support myself totally financially. I'm not dependent on anyone or anything, and so I'm not a burden. I'm not impacting anybody. I'm not negatively affecting anybody, and I'm just going about my life being as happy as I can, doing as much of the stuff that I love as often as I can. I mean, I've just started a little challenge where over the next 100 days, or the next 97 days, I'm trying to ride 1,500 miles on my mum's old mountain bike. Just a totally random thing. totally stupid, but it's just a bit of fun, and I love biking, I love being in the countryside, and that's what it's all about. It's not something that's going to achieve anything, but I enjoy doing it, and even if it's going to be pretty difficult sometimes, like last night going out in the pouring rain and stuff, it's still just, yeah, it's a bit of fun, it's a bit of a laugh, go for it. So basically, this is when my real sort of underachievement starts, where I just realise that I'm not interested in lots of stuff that people really want me to do. And when I bought my boat and the YouTube channel started to take off and what have you, I even early on when I'd be doing videos like thank you videos of reaching different milestones, even early on, I think even with 100,000 view thing, I'm like overwhelmed because it's like amazing to have the experience of so many people tuning in. But even then, I'm starting to say like, oh, flipping heck, I can't imagine these people that get like millions and tens of millions of views, like having people recognise them and all that sort of stuff. And as my YouTube channel got bigger and bigger, and more people, especially because I was out on the canals on a boat, so people who were interested in boat stuff would look on the internet, see me doing boat stuff, and then be more likely to be out on the canals to actually see me in real life. And it was amazing to have so many people like come up and shake your hand, oh, I've seen your videos, all that sort of stuff. But I was always uncomfortable with the idea, and I always knew that I didn't want to be like massive on the internet or internet famous or anything of that nature, because it didn't bring me happiness. If anything, it brought me a slight sort of, I don't know, not reluctancy, because I enjoy doing videos and stuff, but it was more that thing of like, oh, flipping heck, I hope that I can just go about my life as anonymously as possible, which was part of the whole basis of me getting a boat in the first place, which I went on to totally destroy by, well, again, getting millions of views and suddenly having loads of people know me when I was out on the canal, whether I was with the boat or not at that point. And basically, over that time, as the YouTube channel got bigger, different things started to happen, and I started to get offers for different things that were going to take me well out of my comfort zone and threatened to make me more successful on the internet. And I suppose just one thing I'll say before we get into that, another little known fact is that even before all of the boating era and the YouTube channel getting millions of views and stuff, years before, I had done a history podcast series that at one point was the UK's most popular independent podcast. And when I say independent, I mean not part of like the BBC or a proper organisation like that. It's like I literally once had a podcast in the iTunes top 25 most listened to shows. And that, again, had a similar thing of, I enjoyed doing it, which is why I did it. But when it got massive and getting like thousands and thousands of downloads, again, this is years and years ago when that was sort of unthinkable, I didn't really have too much interest in making that into a big thing, because it was something I did as a hobby. And not long after it really started to reach its absolute peak, I decided to start to walk away and be like, oh yeah, it's been fun while I've done it, but it's not what I want to do, so I'm not going to do it. And again, that was one of those things that was another early sign of like, wow, look at this, Dan, you're in the top 25, that's amazing, flipping it. You're literally only behind people like Chris Moyles and radio podcasts and stuff like that. And it was fantastic, it was a great experience, but it didn't mean enough to me to be like, oh yeah, this is what I want, this is the most important thing in the pot ever, like being popular, all that sort of stuff. And I walked away from it. So when I was on the boat and that, there was all sorts of different things, like radio shows that always get in contact saying, oh, will you do an interview, And I, oh no, sorry, no, it's not my sort of thing. Similarly, there's all sorts of stuff like, let's have a look. Like another big one, Great Canal Journeys. I had the chance to be on that with Timothy West and Prunella Scales. And that's like one of the sort of flagship boating TV programmes in the UK, that is. And I could have been on it, but I wasn't comfortable with the idea. Everybody around me was like, you've got to do it. But I just sort of wasn't really interested. And it's like people can say, oh, you were scared and all that sort of stuff, which I don't know, perhaps that's true. I mean, certainly it didn't fill me with like great joy, the idea of having to be properly on camera and having that sort of stuff going on my boat and what have you. But at the same time, it's that thing of like, it's not really what I want. And because I saw YouTube getting bigger and bigger, I was like, well, this is great, but if this isn't what I intended, I didn't deliberately set out to get millions of views and so on. And basically, there's all these different things. Another one, what have we got? There was a company that I won't name. They wanted me to do a video for them. They wanted me to not really do a video for them. They wanted me to sort of present a few videos for them and be out at their sort of little recording place with proper cameras, crew and all that sort of stuff. And this is really the key moment, I suppose, in my life that sums it up, that when this company got in touch with me, it's like, again, could have got loads more subscribers, could have got loads more views on YouTube and a bit more money from that sort of stuff. But I literally even responded saying, oh, no, thank you, I don't think this is for me. And they said, oh, could we ask why? And I literally said to them, well, to be honest, I'm trying to not appear on camera as much, and I'm trying to like downplay my role even in my own videos, and I don't really want the attention. And again, that was a massive opportunity that I gave up. And they even specifically said, when they said why, I was like, might as well just be honest and say, this is getting out of hand, it's not what I want, sorry. And again, there's people who absolutely would be bouncing off the walls to get that sort of like offer and that sort of thing, and it's like a great opportunity. And if you wish to take it, then go for it, I say. Milk everything for all it's worth if that's what's going to make you happy. But again, well, I don't know, perhaps that could lead into harming other people and not live up to my motto. But anyway, that's all distractions. But that was a good indicator, though, of, again, I just wasn't interested in that sort of stuff. Could have been on telly, could have been on the radio, could have been in marketing, like sort of promotional videos for companies. And I turned it all down and I walked away because I knew deep down it's not what I wanted. And the bigger that things got, the less that it was sort of, oh yeah, let's get the next million views, let's get the next blah, blah, blah. And again, what I've enjoyed when I gave up my boat last year, well, let's keep going in order here. What have we got? Another thing with YouTube and making more money and that sort of stuff. It's like, I could have on many occasions signed up to a YouTube partner network where basically you'd be bundled in with a load of other channels, and then they'd use that leverage to get better targeted adverts at a higher price so you could earn more money in that. But again, I've been more interested in keeping my YouTube stuff as my own independent thing, without relying on other like external things. That I would rather not have that extra money and know that my YouTube channel is completely mine, operating just under whatever I choose it to be operating under. And there's, like I say, there's just so many things, like tiny little things going on here, there, that are me walking away from greater money, greater popularity, general achievement in what society as a whole would easily say, well, that's success and this isn't, or this is the good option, that's the bad option. All I ever wanted to do was go outside and play and wander around, walk miles in a day, bike miles in a day, go kayaking down the canal and boat about and just enjoy life, doing nothing important whatsoever, but harming nobody and just taking each day as it comes, I suppose. Now, when it comes to stuff like my writing, which is one of my great loves in the world, as I've said in other videos, it's like I literally could have carried on writing. I could have written far more boat books while I had the boat. I could have carried on writing more boat books after I left the boat. But instead, it's like I chose to start writing. Like, I'm currently writing a book about my local area and stuff, and like general memories from growing up out in Shropshire and all that. My last book that came out was a short story written about a cat that gets trapped on a canal boat and taken off on an adventure. And these two books, for example, that I'm spending hours and hours writing thousands of words that will all be deleted and never make it into the final version and so on. It's like, those two books will never be anywhere near as popular as if I wrote a boat book. But instead, I'm writing the stuff that I've wanted to write for a long time. And I'm enjoying it, and I'm enjoying it more than if I was trying to like milk the boating book idea and come up with more ideas. Oh, what can I write about boat stuff? Because I've got ideas, I've got loose ideas that I could easily spin into a short book if I wanted, but instead I'm doing the writing that I personally want to do, which, again, as I said in my previous video about money and debt and stuff like that, it's like, to some people, this is absolute madness what I'm doing. And it is really, because it's going to be hours and hours and hours, weeks and months of my life to write a book that few people will read. And especially when you compare, I could have spent that time writing something that I didn't necessarily want to write, but I knew would sell and could sell and get a load of money for it. But instead, I'm not. So again, actually, when I think about this, I've made terrible mistakes. But you see, though, this is what it's all about. It's coming back to that idea of doing what makes me happy. And as long as I'm not, like, doing anything that's harming people or requiring other people to prop up my lifestyle to do these things, then I personally at least see that as an absolutely, well, a neutral way to live almost. But the way that's given me the greatest immediate happiness from day to day. And I suppose really it's the biggest thing is when I decided to give up my boat and move back onto dry land and move in here and all the rest of it, because I knew that I wasn't just giving up my boat, I was giving up the YouTube channel and I was giving up the endless expansion of YouTube and all that stuff. But because YouTube, to me, I've been on YouTube since almost when it began with my old account, and it's always been about the enjoyment of making videos and the enjoyment of doing general bits and pieces and just, again, doing stuff that I enjoy doing, rather than going, oh, I've got to get millions of views and 1,000 subscribers and all that. And again, could make a lot more money than I've made off the internet. And again, like I say, when I had the boat, there were years after year where, because I was buying, like, my new phone to have a better camera to record video footage with and buying a laptop to edit it and all that sort of stuff, there was many years where I literally spent hundreds of pounds more per year to do the YouTube videos to the best of my ability than I actually made back in advertising money off YouTube. So yeah, again, that's the level of success you could say I've had with that. But ultimately, though, it's when I sold the boat, I knew that I was giving up that. I knew that, as I've always said, it's like nobody was watching the YouTube channel for me. They were watching it to see the outdoors, to see, like, boat life and see these beautiful canals and rural locations. But I was fine with that, because that wasn't why I loved YouTube and why I enjoyed doing YouTube stuff. Now, YouTube, there's a lot to say about, because the internet in general and YouTube is all taking a very bad turn that's setting some dangerous precedents, I think, personally, which I'll talk about again in a different video. But it was never about, like, because when I started on YouTube years and years ago, the idea of having millions of views was almost an impossible target. Like, don't get me wrong, like, for years and years on YouTube, I would get literally like 100 views or less on most of my videos. And as you go forward in life and look at how it all blossomed and that over the last sort of 5 years, it's unbelievable, really. And again, when I started to walk away from boating, I knew that's all over. That's gone. That's dead in the water. No pun intended there. But again, it was that thing of, well, it's not having the boat and what have you isn't what I want for the future. And just as there's so many people who tell me, oh, get a boat, you belong on the water. It's like, I'd love to have a little boat. And I've talked in the past about getting a little boat, just a little cruiser-style yogurt pot type boat for fun. But there's some people who have this idea and that, like, oh yeah, you can do really well on YouTube again if you get a boat and stuff, which I've no doubt that's easily possible. I could probably buy a small boat and make it pay for itself over a couple of years. But it's not really what I want. And even if it made financial sense, I don't feel that at this moment I desperately want to get a boat. Next year I may consider getting just a small cruiser boat, don't get me wrong. But that's just as a little base, a little sort of office space almost, just somewhere to go and enjoy being, even if I only leave it in somewhere like Chirk Marina for the majority of the time. Just somewhere to enjoy, basically. And ultimately, that's what it's all about, just enjoying life. And again, I haven't done anything great in my life. I have turned away from countless opportunities that could have led to much greater success in all of the general thing of it could have been more money, could have been more popularity, could have been, I don't know, better jobs, careers, what have you, higher paying jobs in different areas. All of these things I've sort of given up and turned away from in the pursuit of happiness, I suppose. But no, honestly, I've turned away from all that sort of stuff to basically try and live a life that's relatively simple, relatively low cost, that allows me to just go outside, be in the great outdoors where I love to be, doing the things that I love doing. And if that's just walking around the same few fields for the rest of my life, then if I'm happy doing it, then I've got absolutely no problem with that. And if that makes people look at me if what a waste of what a waste of a life he's had. He could have done so much more, even going back from his early years. And well, again, if that's what people think, then that's certainly their prerogative. But it doesn't take away from the fact that I would certainly look at my life and then look at a lot of people's lives and go, I personally would not like to swap. But yeah, anyway, that's just a few thoughts really. Just thought I'd share that with you. Until next time, my friends, I'll say check the links in the description if you're curious about my short books about boat life and the Shropshire Canal cat, and my upcoming book as well about the local area and all that. Links in the description. Feel free to add me on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, all of that sort of stuff. Again, links to me all over the internet in the description below. Have a fantastic day though, my friends. Keep it happiness worthy. Keep it interesting. And of course, my friends, have a fantastic day and farewell.